Okay, it is Friday, and it has been, another absolutely nuts week in the era of Trump and exhausting and all of the things. So why don't I show you something that will actually make you feel good? Doesn't that feel good? I mean, this was the scene at the Kennedy Center today where people gathered to watch construction crews put up scaffolding that they'll use to remove Donald Trump's name from the side of the building. And it comes, of course, after a federal judge ruled Trump's decision to just add his name to the Kennedy Center was illegal and ordered his name to be removed by today. And it wasn't just local onlookers, though there are many, many of them who came to see the show in Washington, D.C. Over the course of the day, hundreds of thousands of people tuned into an MS Now live stream to watch a construction crew prepared to remove that tacky symbol of Trump's insecure demand to have his name plastered everywhere across Washington, D.C. Now, in total so far, nearly 3 million people have watched that single live stream today. Nearly 3 million people. And they haven't even started taking the name off yet. This is literally watching scaffolding being put up. If that doesn't tell you how people feel right now about Trump and how much they hate the sight of his name on institutions they care about, I don't know what does. But that name will come off that building tonight. And all show long, we're just going to have a little live stream in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So if they start to take that name off, you'll be the first to know. So that's a pretty fun thing happening tonight, right? How about I tell you, because you've digested the good thing, about some things that will make you feel simultaneously outraged? Because today has also been a very good day for Donald Trump's billionaire buddies. Tonight, we got the news that the Trump Justice Department has approved Paramount's $111 billion deal to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. That means 2 major movie studios, 2 major streaming services, CNN and CBS News, will now all be under one roof. And all of it will be controlled by David Ellison, the son, of course, of MAGA billionaire Larry Ellison. Now, did paying $16 million to settle a completely bogus lawsuit over a Kamala Harris interview, installing Barry Weiss at CBS News, gutting 60 Minutes, and firing Stephen Colbert help grease the wheels a little bit? Who knows? I think you know. But what we do know for sure is that it was a big day for the Ellison boys. So I'll just let you digest that news for a moment as I show you this other headline that is going to be rage-inducing from the Wall Street Journal. Because Elon Musk is officially the world's first trillionaire. That's right, the same guy who hacked away at the federal government with a literal chainsaw. Yep, remember that when that happened, that crazy thing on the stage? The guy who made massive cuts to U.S. foreign aid, cuts that Harvard School of Public Health estimate have led to hundreds of thousands of deaths around the globe. The same guy whose monstrous creation, the Department of Government Efficiency, is accused of illegally accessing Americans' sensitive Social Security data. The same guy who sent an email to more than 2 million federal workers telling them to justify their job or be fired. The same guy who campaigned and spent hundreds of millions of dollars to get Trump elected while he was reportedly, and this detail is, well, so high on ketamine that it was affecting his bladder, all of which he strongly denied. The same guy who let his merry band of 20-something tech bros run around firing career civil servants, cutting social safety nets, and wrecking the government without reducing the federal deficit or producing any discernible benefit to the country whatsoever. I mean, just listen to the way one of those Doge bros described their work in a sworn deposition.
You don't regret that people might have lost important income to support their lives?
No. I think it was more important to reduce the federal deficit from $2 trillion to close to zero.
Right. Did you reduce the federal deficit?
No, we didn't.
So you weren't able to reduce the deficit, and you still don't regret that people lost some of their livelihood based on your actions?
Objection.
No.
First of all, is the guy we just showed there cutting benefits like 12 and a half? I mean, what is even happening there? But basically, sure, people lost their livelihoods, and sure, they completely failed to achieve the most fundamental thing they set out to do. But somehow, that 12-and-a-half-year-old looking kid thinks it was all worth it. And now Elon Musk, the guy responsible for all of that chaos and insanity, has just become the world's first ever person to be worth $1 trillion, with a T, trillion. Because today Elon Musk took his space and AI company SpaceX public, allowing investors to buy shares of the company on the stock market. And the company started out at an enormous valuation of $1.77 trillion and shot up through the course of the day to a market value of over $2 trillion as the trading day went on. Now, the origin story of how we got here is very worth remembering, because part of the reason Elon Musk companies were able to become so successful in the first place is because they received a ton of government subsidies, investments, and contracts. And that money was especially crucial to Musk's companies in their earliest days, when their success was far from a sure bet. Without a critical taxpayer-funded investment during a very precarious time for Tesla, it may not have survived at all. And likewise, the financing and contracts that SpaceX received from the federal government in its early years were absolutely vital to making it the company it has now become. So the federal government that Musk took his chainsaw to was the same federal government that enabled that guy to become the world's richest man by the massive margin we see today. But despite how far Musk's SpaceX has come, a lot of people still question whether the company is really worth $2 trillion. I mean, the financial research firm Morningstar estimated that the space part of SpaceX, the part of the company that actually launches rockets and builds starships, has an estimated value of just over $600 billion. That's a lot, but it's nowhere near its supposed $2 trillion market value. According to SpaceX, the rest of its value comes from the artificial intelligence part of the company called xAI, which is currently losing money. It lost about $2.5 billion in the first quarter of this year. So investors are betting on money losing AI, betting on the money losing AI part of Musk's company. That's basically what's happening here. You know, the one that made a chatbot go rogue and start calling itself Mecha Hitler. Remember that? They think that part of the company is eventually going to become way more valuable than the part of his company that sends rockets into space. So there's that. So how did Musk convince so many people to buy into that idea today? Well, first, Trump's SEC loosened some of the rules for brokerage firms, making it easier for people to buy into SpaceX. Musk then decided to set aside an unusually large portion of SpaceX's publicly traded shares for retail investors, which basically means regular people who buy and sell their own stock. As the Wall Street Journal puts it, those investors are much less likely to scrutinize Musk's business plans and much more likely to buy into Musk's hype about things like putting AI data centers in space. So basically, Elon Musk is essentially relying on his army of loyal fans to help make him rich. But he's also relying on a big investment from someone else, you, or many of you. Let me explain. So the stock market has these things called index funds. You've probably heard of them. They track the major indexes like the S&P 500 or the Dow. And index funds are basically a way of bundling investments in a bunch of established companies rather than picking and choosing them individually. So if you have a 401k or a pension, it's probably invested in an index fund or two. Typically, a company has to be listed on the stock market for around a year before it can be included in one of those index funds. It's essentially a safeguard in order to protect people's investments. But earlier this year, Reuters revealed that Musk's company told NASDAQ that they would have to shorten that waiting period for SpaceX if NASDAQ wanted to list their stock on their exchange. NASDAQ then changed their rules to allow companies like SpaceX to be included in the NASDAQ 100 just a few weeks after going public. So what does all of that basically mean? Well, it means that in just a few short weeks, millions of Americans' retirement funds and pension plans are going to be invested in SpaceX all at once. So you may end up boosting Elon Musk's net worth, whether you like it or not, whether you want to or not. In many ways, the SpaceX IPO is the perfect example of how the Trump-era economy works. Basically, rich people with power and influence can change the rules so they get richer, while regular people, taxpayers and pensioners, are left holding the bag. It's absolutely infuriating.